a $700 billion ransom note signed by the US Treasury, a bank CEO who played bridge while his company evaporated, and a secret list in Washington that decides which companies are allowed to die and which ones you are forced to save. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how too big to fail turned the global economy into a hostage situation, and why the free market is actually a rigged casino where the house wins if the ball lands on red, and the taxpayer pays if the ball lands on black. You are about to discover the doctrine of extortion. Stop worrying about your credit score. Worry about the currency in your pocket. You live in a world of consequences. If you start a small business and it fails, you lose your savings. You close the doors. You go home. If you gamble your rent money at a casino and lose, the casino doesn't give it back. The system is brutal to you. But for the financial elite, the rules of gravity have been turned off. The stakes here are not just fairness. They are about the value of your labor. When the government prints $1 trillion to save a failing bank, they are diluting the money you worked for. They are taxing you twice. Once on your paycheck, and once through inflation. They are taking the purchasing power from your future to cover the gambling debts of a stranger in a suit. They have built a system where your prudence pays for their recklessness. To understand this financial coup, we have to look at the architecture of the bailout. It isn't an emergency measure, it is a permanent policy. It relies on 3 structural flaws. Step 1 is the setup, the repeal of the firewall. We have to go back to the 12th of November 1999. President Bill Clinton signed the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. This repealed the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. For 60 years, Glass-Steagall had separated commercial banks, where you keep your savings, from investment banks, where they gamble on stocks. It was a firewall. It kept your money safe from their bets. The repeal tore that wall down. Suddenly, the boring bank that held your mortgage was allowed to merge with the high-risk casino. They created massive superbanks Citigroup, JP Morgan, Bank of America. They became so large and interconnected that if one failed, it would drag the whole economy down with it. They didn't just grow. They strapped a bomb to their chest and handed the detonator to the government. Step 2 is the trick. Privatized gains, socialized losses. This is the core of the scam. It is called moral hazard. Imagine if you had a car insurance policy that said, if you drive safely, you keep the money. If you crash the car into a wall at 100 miles per hour, we buy you a Ferrari. How would you drive? You would drive like a maniac. That is how Wall Street operates. They use leverage. They borrow $30 for every $1 they actually own. They bet it all on complex derivatives. If the market goes up, they make billions in bonuses. They keep it all. If the market crashes, they are technically bankrupt. But they know the secret. They know the government is terrified of a collapse. So when the crash comes, they don't file for bankruptcy. They call the Treasury Secretary. Step 3 is the proof. You want the smoking gun? Look at AIG, American International Group, in September 2008. AIG had insured trillions of dollars of bad mortgages. When the housing market collapsed, AIG owed money it didn't have. The US government stepped in with a bailout package that eventually totaled $182 billion. Taxpayer money. But here is the insult. In March 2009, after receiving the bailout, AIG paid out $165 million in bonuses to its executives. The very same people who destroyed the company and wrecked the economy took home millions in performance bonuses. President Obama called it an outrage. The public was furious. But the checks cleared. They proved that in this system, incompetence is not punished. It is subsidized. So, who wins in the wreckage? The survivors? This is the consolidation exit. After every bailout, the big banks get bigger. In 2008, Bear Stearns failed. Who bought it? JP Morgan Chase, with government help. In 2023, First Republic Bank failed. Who bought it? JP Morgan Chase, with government help. The bailout doctrine wipes out the small, responsible community banks that can't access the federal money printer and hands their market share to the systemically important giants. The executives exit with their golden parachutes. Richard Fuld, the CEO of Lehman Brothers, took home nearly $500 million in compensation in the years leading up to the collapse. He kept the money. The shareholders lost everything. The employees lost their jobs. The taxpayers picked up the tab. It is a wealth transfer from the responsible middle class to the reckless elite, laundered through the Federal Reserve. There is an old saying in economics: capitalism without bankruptcy is like Catholicism without hell. If there is no punishment for sin, there is no reason to be virtuous. We do not have capitalism. In capitalism, bad businesses die. We have corporate socialism. We have a system where the poor are disciplined by the cruel hand of the market, while the rich are protected by the soft hand of the state. The question isn't, was the bailout necessary to save the economy? The question is, if you are forced to pay for their losses, why don't you get a share of their profits?